Now today promises to be one of the days that I always look forward to. We're going to start reassembling the bike. I got to pull off the old forks first. Karen's making coffee to get me moving along. I'm a little slow this morning. We spent a lot of time the other day cleaning up the backyard, cleaning up the porch, getting everything ready for spring. And then this morning, it gets cold again. Didn't they get the memo? And we have a great little woodpecker coming to our feeder the last couple of days. I can't get him on video yet. Nice red-headed woodpecker. So a lot of things to look forward to. First thing this morning, I got to go out to the garage, flip the chargers, and pull off the old fork legs. Now we have tried to share every step of this project because, to be honest, I'm really excited about this. I have restored a lot of motorcycles in my 50 plus years of owning motors. 50, it's probably more like 60 to be honest. But I've done a lot of butchery things, a lot of things that I'm glad aren't on video. This is one I'm glad is on video to share. And because we're into this, we're going to be into this 5 months pretty soon. And I estimate over 600 hours to get to this point. This will probably be 700 or 800 by the time we're done. But when I'm done, I think I'll have something really worthwhile, unique. And it'll float my boat for many years to come. And my boat needs a lot of floating. I've still got to finish all the little parts for the back wheel. There's still some work to do back there. I've got to link up with Glenn when he wants to come down. He's a busy guy too. This time of year, I'm sure he's even more busy. And I don't think it's going to be long, and we're going to start to really see some progress on the assembly. This is when it really gets exciting on a restoration project. And if the truth were known, I have just had a wonderful winter. Both Karen and I have had some medical issues, but we've worked through them. Spring is in the air. We've enjoyed sharing it. We've enjoyed sharing it with you. The whole project very soon is going to come to fruition. And I even snuck in a couple of rides the last couple of days, but I don't think there'll be any riding today. We want to get this done today. No, it still went below freezing last night, so we're going to leave the battery chargers on probably for another couple of weeks. Spring is on the way, but it's not here yet. We were out riding the RD. We got a ride on the Kawasaki. And, of course, it makes you think spring is here, but then you get up like this morning. It was pretty cold. It won't matter. It will not stop us. Well, like the mailman that's walking in the snow, it will not stop our mission. Yesterday I went over some of the ideas I had about the evil twins, because I know other people, including Luciano, have been thinking about these type of projects where you make two bikes out of one. Kind of a neat thing. If you haven't seen the video before, this might be interesting. And we did get an RD ride yesterday too, so just for not everybody I know watches all the videos, that's for sure. But right now the coffee is brewing, and that's the main thing. Once I get the batteries flopped out and figure out exactly how I want to do this, have some coffee, I'm ready to work. As cold as it is, I'm ready to work. So the first thing here is to get the stand, get the weight off. Of course we have a come along holding the weight as a safety thing too. I would always want to have that. I'm not comfortable when a bike is just sitting up on any kind of stand that can teeter-totter. The come along means it will not fall on you. Alright, so the first thing here, this is kind of simple. We'll get rid of the stand, pick the bike up. There's some bolts have to be loosened, and we should be able to pull the fork legs one by one right out. Now I want to take these bolts completely out and polish them, of course. That'll make that a little bit easier. Of course, the way this is really difficult to get some of these bolts out, and these have to come out because in fact I'm going to have to get a different wrench for this. This is the joint for the two front brakes, and the line runs right in front of, well, nothing's easy. Nothing. This is why a lot of people go out and spend $20,000 for a new motorcycle. They don't want to go through this. But we're tough. As Ray Straub always says, we're tough. And he's right. It's just a matter of a lot of nuts and bolts here. This piece has to come off. I can see already I need a shorter wrench to get in there. Then I'll be able to get the last bolts out here, and I'll be able to pull one of the fork legs. Put that piece up out of the way. It'll just make this, getting these two bolts loose and out of the way. These bolts are always Loctited in, so normally you just would have to loosen these, but because I want to polish them, what is more loose ends on this front end. But as long as you do a job like this one step at a time, one bolt at a time, we'll polish these. You understand why I want to polish them. I'm sure you figured that out already. Now I'm loosening these bolts, but one of the good tips that I've found over the years that works for me is I never take both fork legs out at the same time. Oh, that one's really in there. Wow. Oh my God. Need a wrench extension. Whoa, that one's really in there. Now here's a good tip. We had a bolt that really is frozen in there. You know, this is over 30-year-old motorcycle, so what happens is the end of the wrench starts getting rounded off when you're forcing it with a wrench extension. So what I did, I cut a little bit off so I have a fresh new edge on this, and then hammered that in, much like I did with the rear sprocket parts, and now I can get that off. But if you don't have a good fit, you'll just round that whole thing to wrench off, and that'll be the end of it. So this is going to be a little difficult getting this one out, but it's only time. Now I know this is something you don't have to do, but it's just my way of doing things. Anytime I've ever taken a fork off and I only need to take one leg off at a time, it's always good. Now I've taken all the bolts off, and that one really was a bitch. I had to use a real big wrench extension, but I got it off by cutting the end off that Allen wrench more than anything else. Now I'm going to leave this, even though there's no bolts in here, I'm going to leave this one in place, clean these receptors out where the tubes are going, and put the new tube in. So in essence, this one is going to help. I don't want to take this one off and then something twists and I got to work on alignment, because I basically am hanging a motorcycle here. So by leaving this one in, it'll act like a jig, I guess. Now I guess we could jack the motorcycle up if we wanted to a different way, but this is what works for me. And see, this is always in the way on an FZR. It's a nuisance. But we'll clean out in here, clean out in there with a nice clean rag and some brake parts cleaner. And we'll be ready to put the new, one leg at a time, put the new fork on. And take these old bent guys and recycle them, I guess. Now you can see the bolts after 30 years. This is what happens. We're going to polish them up, wire brush all that rust off. So this will at least be like brand new. And then we'll be ready to put the first of the fork legs back on. Now I got up really early this morning. I heard the waterfalls running. The green monster is gone. It's a blue skies day. A great day. It's a little chilly still. This is going to be a good day to get some of this work done. So now only you can decide which of those bolts you'd like holding your front end on. And by the way, these are definitely grade 8 bolts. You don't want to replace these with a grade 5 or some bolt that's just laying around. These bolts do a lot of work. Just one step. Now because we have the other one still in place, this should go right in. I love that word should. Should is such a big word. Just one more small detail on the way to having this as good as we can make it. Now also having those threads cleaned up will mean the Loctite will get a much better bite. And we don't want those bolts getting loose. Now because this is all polished up, I want to be really, really careful about putting it back on. I don't want to scratch anything up. I want to clean the triple trees nice and clean. Hopefully get this on without a scratch. Getting this all cleaned up is just one step. Now, because we have the other one still in place, this should go right in. I love that word should. Should is such a big word. Now, rather than scratch this, I want to get a screwdriver and pull this apart a little bit. See, this is why I didn't want to have any scratches on this if I can help it. Oh, so this screwdriver is just spreading this apart just enough that this will go up without really having a scratch in it. Well, I guess we're going to find out. Okay, now if I take this out, by taking the screwdriver out, it just holds it in place. That's a good trick. That's a good tip. So we got this in without a scratch. Now I want to make sure this is perfectly level. Now people do raise and lower the forks a certain amount. I wound up doing that years ago and found out that when this is perfectly flat for me, everything was just about right. And my suspension, when I do adjust this, will be right about in the middle. But that's coming. See, now you wouldn't want to have the two that are, one is up and one is down. They either can both be up a little bit, both be down, but they should be perfectly even, and we'll get them even before we tighten any of the bolts. This is what I try to do before I put a bolt back in. Something that really matters, something that's holding apart. And every grade 8 bolt, of course. Clean off and blue Loctite. You only need a drop or two of blue Loctite on every one of these bolts and you're good to go. Now what I'm doing is tightening the bolts just hand tight, a little tighter than hand tight, until everything's in and the axle is in and everything is tightened up and aligned, and then I'll come back and torque each one down to the factory spec. But just a little tighter than hand tight will hold it all together while I get the rest of the bolts in and change the other leg out. This one is going to be, this is a little tighter. Well, again, I think what I'll do, as you spread this, it takes the tension off and you can take it right out like magic. The screwdriver is the whole trick. Now, again, to clean that up, get the new leg in. But this was a major thing to get this done today. Now, once I get the other leg in, I'm looking at this. I want to put the radiator grill in. I want to clean the calipers up. I want to do all the work in here, cleaning this all up as much as I can. I bought a couple extra parts of brake cleaner, and thank you, Bobby. There was a couple of cans of brake cleaner. He must have known I needed it. Anyway, the old forks are out. Now, it's always important to me. I know some people don't bother cleaning everything. I like to get everything while I have it apart. That old thing of while it's apart, not to clean in these areas that you never get to. I may as well leave that screwdriver right in there. Actually, everything in here is pretty clean. Now, I'm looking at these scratch spots. I'd like them to be in the back so I could get that. Trying to get the least offensive scratches. That screwdriver really worked great. Now I'm going to line this up close anyway, close to where we want. Pull the screwdriver out, it's in place. Now just getting these bolts pinched down, that's all I need to do right now at this point. Tight enough. Make sure I've got these exactly level. Oh, that's perfect. Now what I did, the one that was a little problem getting out, it was locked. I took my little circular wire brush and ran it through there, and needless to say, out came a lot of rust. So now the bolts are going right in with no problem at all. And a Loctite will get a better grip. It's just the best of all worlds if you do that. It's just so nice working with clean hardware, clean parts. It's just like putting a new motorcycle together. Again, everything's going to be hand tight right to the very end. And a big part of everything I do is the cleanup of the parts. If the parts are even the slightest bit contaminated or corroded or anything, Okay, just hand tight for right now. Next thing, I want to get the radiator grill in there. It'll be very easy to get the radiator grill while everything's apart like that. Now I use high heat silver on this. I'm sure that's overkill. Previously polished up the screws. This is an easy part to put in, but I'll make sure I get it without scratching anything up. From this point on, we got to really be careful about scratching stuff up. The first thing I did, I took some compressed air and just blew in there, tried to clean out as much as I could from between the fins. And that's ready to put back in. See, now these are the kind of things that are so much easier to do before you have the fender and the wheel and everything on, the bodywork. Just this part of it is a lot easier to do. So I always try to work from the inside of the motorcycle out. I wouldn't want to do things, well, it's hard enough to do it when you do them in sequence. Okay, next thing to do is I'm going to clean up the calipers as much as I can here. Thank you, Bobby, for your donation of brake parts cleaner. We'll clean those all up and just get them hung out of the way for now. There's plenty of material, and I have these really cute little wood spreader blocks that when I put these on around the rim, you have to really be careful. I have to spread these all the way out, or else it winds up scratching the rim, in which case it's not going to be... I'm not going to be the happiest guy in Rutherford if I scratch that rim up. Okay, now we got to get zip ties and get those up out of the way to do the rest of the work on the front. It's really important to get these up out of the way. This can be a real problem if these go flopping around. That gives us enough clearance. Everything's in good shape here. And our poor grandson got hurt playing with another child. He's got his foot all in an ace bandage, and of course we're gonna have to cuddle and coo him tonight. But anyway, that part of it is done, and it's time for a coffee break. It's still cold out here, and boy, you can see how bent that one fork leg really is. And we rode the bike that way for many years, and I'm sure the bike's gonna handle better and just be better, period. And Luciano said something that I thought was very funny. He said it'll even look better. And he's right. He's always right. Even when he's wrong, it's a tie. Has the woodpecker been around this morning?
I haven't seen him.
We got a red-headed woodpecker coming to our feeder. It's unbelievable. There's our woodpecker. Our red-headed woodpecker is here to visit us this morning. You guys think the only birds we have at our feeder are eagles? We have red-headed woodpeckers. Look at this guy. Wow, he's a nice looking bird. Whoa, he's big too. Look at the size of him. Wow. Now after a nice coffee break, the next part to get on this is going to be the front fender. Always a tricky thing getting this fender on without scratching it. Now, believe it or not, one of the trickiest parts to get on a bike is this fender. It is really, all the bolts are in a spot that you need little tiny fingers to get in. Unfortunately, I don't have delicate little fingers. Anyway, once that's tightened down, wow. I really feel like we're making progress today. It is so cold I had to take out the quartz heater. Instead of warming up today, it got colder. What's with that plan? I would highly suggest anybody puts that front fender on, put Loctite on the bolts, because if they get loose, you've got to take the front wheel off to get in at the bolts conveniently. Unless you have these little tiny hands. I guess the people that designed the motorcycle had little tiny hands. And the next step, of course, is to get the wheel on, and I'll get some tape to try to protect when we put the calipers around there. I'll put some tape on the wheel just in case. But the whole trick is to spread the calipers. This is actually the first time I've gotten to see the wheel out in the sunlight. I'm real happy the way that wheel came out. The trick is you've got to get this speedometer drive right in the right spot before that will line up. Tightening this up. Now I wanted to check, because these bolts are longer than the stock ones, that we have plenty of clearance, and we do. And we have clearance around the speedometer drive, which we do. And when you put an FZR together, if you don't line this tab up, it's very disappointing. That's the best I can say. It's disappointing. This is one of the most critical things if you have even powder coated wheels or Marchesini wheels or something you don't want to have scratched up. Use a big screwdriver or something to pry. You got to get the pistons to go all the way back in. Now I use these pieces of wood, but you could use anything really. Let's see, we're in the back. And all this does is hold it apart temporarily. Don't have to be in there real hard. Now I gotta get this around this way. Okay. Now I don't want to have, one thing I don't want to have is that I wind up scratching the rim doing this. Because I have to go around the corner. Now I'm in, I haven't scratched the rim. Now I can just bring this up and put the bolts in. But getting it to go around that corner is the difficult thing. Obviously Loctiting these bolts is important. A lot of little details in that front end. A lot of labor, a lot of time. I don't think a lot of money, but all of those details, they all add up. I think that front end just looks great. Way better than I thought it would in the very beginning. And the only thing left is put the other caliper on and you can lower it down off of the come along. Alright, we've taken the strain off the come along. It's going to have, that's just my safety wire now until I get the back wheel on. Boy, that came out, just exceeded my wildest dream, how that is. And when I think back of the vision I had for this project, and believe me, this is one of the hardest parts, getting that old front end. That front end is straight now. Everything is Loctited in. Everything is tightened up to spec. A pretty good day. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We got a big part of this done today. I couldn't be happier. This is really coming out nice. And I hope the people that have already seen it in real life and they're looking forward to the parts I'm talking about and seeing the bike in one piece the first time, it's going to be worth the wait. Anyway, we got a lot done today. It was a super day. It's the kind of day when I go to get the baby, and very soon in fact I'm pushing this a little bit. When I pick him up, I'm going to show him the bike and he's going to say, I want to play Legos. Anyway, all part of a day in the life of Windy. Thanks for watching.